Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm Jim Ewing with Provision Solutions. We've enjoyed sharing insights, inspiration, and informative updates through our Marketplace Ministries events. Whether in person or virtual, there's been a wealth of great resources provided. Details are provided in the comments below, along with information on staying informed of upcoming events and interacting with others online. We trust you'll enjoy the segment and invite you to be a part of our Marketplace Ministries Network. We'd love to have you as part of our collaborative Christian community. Thanks. And now, here's our presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. It's good to have you with us in our Marketplace Ministries Network, and we're talking about venture creation. One of the things that I've always felt very important, coming from this background myself, is that important relationship with a financial institution. And I'm delighted to have Bolu with us here today. I've enjoyed talking with Bolu and her husband and getting to know them just a little bit. Much to my surprise, Bolu is in financial services. So Bolu, why don't you introduce yourself for our audience here, and let's carry on with a great conversation ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thank you, Jim, for that introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Bolu, and as you rightly said, I work in financial industry. I have over 2 years of experience as a business banker in one of the top five financial institutions here in Canada. I ran my own business as well as a small business owner at some point. Yeah, and I'm truly excited to be here. I'm very passionate about discussing business, business creation ideas, and how to help people's finance their businesses as well with people. And I'm glad for the opportunity to be able to share today.
Excellent. Well, we're glad to have you with us. Now, some might ask the question, why do I need a financial institution? I'm just going to put money in a mattress.
Well, if you want to go back to those ages, maybe. But just beyond how the world has evolved, financial institutions they play a big role in helping business owners. And it's, when people think, oh, bank or financial institutions, some people are not so let's say, so happy or open. They, suspect everything has to be the bank to start with, or they just think, oh, maybe the only thing a bank is good for is when I want to loan some money. But I've come to say it's way more than that. It's beyond just lending. As a business owner, you need a bank for your day-to-day, essentially for your core financial management. Whether first thing is keeping your finances, your personal and your business separate. Now, some people run their business financials through the personal. Your accountant might not be so happy with that. Let's just say that. However, even beyond the accountant, it kind of helps you keep line of sight on what is personal and what is business. So it helps you to track your cash flow, your financial management, it lends some credibility to your business, right? Now imagine that you want to sign a contract or something as a business owner, and then you're asking, so where do we transfer the money to? And you're like, oh, use my, I just take cash. Or maybe it's transferred to my personal, it kind of, you having a business account for yourself, it lends that credibility that, okay, this person is really serious with their business. I'm sure Jim can agree with me on that. When it comes to, and then, just beyond even the core financial management part of it, the growth and funding aspect. Now, of course, what we hope for in every business is for expansion at some point. You going from beyond A to maybe B, C, D, E, F, G. And so when it comes to that expansion piece of it, yes, some people they're blessed enough to be able to generate enough capital within their business to inject back into the business. Not everybody has that luxury. And so when it comes to even growth and funding and financing growth, that's where your bank also comes in there. When it comes to access to cash management, we have tools. There are too many tools that you can get through your bank in terms of helping with payroll services, in terms of merchant services, and so many other things. And of course, the most important, access to advisory. Even though, the Bible says that there's safety in the multitude of counsel. And so that's where advisory services come in. The fact that you have someone that if you needed something, you can run it by them, that would be your banker to say, hey, my business is growing in this certain way. What do you think? How do you think I should model? How do you think I should position my business in the next 2 years for me to be able to access this amount and things like that? That's the advisory part of it as well, right? So all of this, and all sums up the reason why we need a bank. And, probably not keep your money under the mattress.
So that's not the best idea.
No, let's just, to keep it that simple. Yes, it's not the greatest idea, let's say.
Yeah. So you mentioned there's a lot of tools and resources that a financial institution would have. And I think that's really good. We live in an information age where access to information is all over the place. And often we do rely upon just searches we would maybe do over the open internet. And that's not always the most reliable source for information or business opportunities. So we want to be cautious as to what we would maybe latch onto when we do searches like that. But if I was interested in approaching a financial institution, and maybe I'm new at doing what I want to do, I'm just in the early stages of getting my venture started, would you have some suggestions for me as someone who's not comfortable with financial institutions? How can you help me to put my best foot forward when approaching someone like you?
Hey, I get people that they're calling, the first call I get is, oh, so I'm thinking of starting a business. What's the first step? What should I do? And then I'm like, well, maybe register your business first, that kind of thing. So in terms of putting your best foot forward, I would say just walk into a bank, ask to speak with your business advisor. Now, it's as much as you want to compare services and which financial institution do you think would aligns best with your values and aligns best with what you want to achieve. Also, it helps for you to start from the bank that you have your personal banking with. So putting your best foot forward is you just chat them up, just have a conversation, schedule a time to talk with the business banker and say, hey, I want to talk to you. I'm thinking of starting a business. What's the first thing I should take? What's the first step? In some instances, the first step is register your business. You already know what kind of business you want to register with the government, whether you want to register as a sole proprietor or you want to register as a corporation, you want to incorporate your business. Now, for people that have gone beyond that, maybe the conversation then would be, okay, so what do I need to get things started? What kind of accounts can I set up? Of course, some people are cautious about, okay, I want one that wouldn't cost me so much. What kind of credit card do I set up? I want one that won't cost me so much. Do I really need a credit card? So it's more about putting your best foot forward. Really is about getting that information from the right source, which I would say would be your banker first, business banker. You don't need to set up an account for you to schedule a meeting with them. Just talk to them and find out what more you need. And, they would definitely be able to point you towards the right direction as to, okay, this is what you should do first.
I think that's good advice. And I don't know if we talked about that before, but that's almost word for word. What I would recommend to someone as well is you have a financial institution, more than likely that you deal with right now personally, talk with them and maybe ask, is there someone within your organization that would be familiar with this type of a venture or this type of a business that I'm looking at getting into or that I have right now? Would it be possible for you to help me get in touch with them and have a conversation? But that conversation is so important.
Yeah, you can never, it can never be overemphasized. That conversation, because it's you knowing. You need knowledge, like you need to understand what you're doing before you just dip your foot into it, right? So it's extremely important.
Yeah. Now, our audience that we're speaking to here, Bolu, as you know, is primarily those that are followers of Jesus Christ and would probably want to do the right thing. In other words, that what would Jesus do type of thing. So if Jesus were applying for the assistance of a financial institution, not that he needs it, he has the cattle on 1,000 hills and all that good stuff. We know that, okay? But if we were representing Jesus Christ as we do in the marketplace, what sort of approach would he want us to exhibit when we are perhaps interacting with others, and in this case, a financial institution?
As a steward, we first thing we focus on is building to last and for impact. So we're not just starting a business just for the fun of it, right? And of course, because we also share God's divine nature, we would expect that, we do business like him. So in doing business like him, if Jesus were to sit in front of me and we're having a conversation, how would he need to represent himself to me? First is, we can kind of tie this back to maybe the lending piece, because most times it's one big thing that people really need, and financial service institutions are always very careful when it comes to having that conversation or getting into that with business owners. Now, I would say that first thing, if Jesus were to sit in front of me, it would represent himself it would represent himself and represent his business financials correctly. Now, sometimes we have clients that, you walk into a business, you walk into a financial institution, a bank, and you're telling them, hey, I think I want this much in loan. And the banker says, okay, can I have your business financials? And you're looking at the business financials, and it's as though this business financials, what exactly are you doing with this business? It's because it doesn't truly represent what that person has told you about the business. So in when it comes to true representation of what your business does, you want to make sure that as stewards of a business, you want to also make sure that that separating of personal from business, you want to make sure that there's a clean cut where if someone were to wake up today and say, oh, okay, I need the financials for this business, you're able to say that you know that you're serious about your business. Now, oftentimes we see in the scripture how I think the scripture sometimes talks about a businessman and what you expect of a businessman. You expect of a businessman to be shrewd with business. Like you know what you're doing with your business. And of course, what would tell me that you know what you're doing with your business is your financials. And I think there was a time we were talking and I was telling you about how there was a time I had a client who said, oh, I wanted to buy this business, and and I asked, okay, give me the financials of the business. And I'm looking at the financials of the business and I'm seeing that this business is not making enough to support whatever it is, whatever debts they're taking on. Now, the person that wants to buy the business is telling me, oh no, it's they're actually making money, but they are hiding the money somehow under expenses and things like that because of CRA. And so what I tell them is, hey, even if this is happening, it's not a true representation of what you're actually making as a business. Two is the only thing that tells your story as a business owner is your business financials. So I would expect that. So if Jesus were to be sitting in front of me right now, I would expect that Jesus's business financials would be great, squeaky clean. I would also expect that his personal credit is good. His credit bureau is good, is excellent. When you think about the bank, they're not lending to just the business, they're also lending to you as the owner. So they are looking at your credibility as the owner, they're looking at your credit worthiness as the owner. So yes, I would expect that Jesus, if Jesus were to sit in front of me, is credit bureau is squeaky clean, and and on and on and on like that. I hope I answered that question.
Oh, absolutely. And what you've just said there about the connection between the owner of the business and how they have handled their personal finances, the financial institution, I would think, will assume that how they've handled their personal financials is likely the way that they will handle their business-related transactions as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you're very good with your finances on the personal, your business should be good as well.
Bolu, I'm sensing that we may be moving into something that's often called the 5 C's of credit. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yes, you are correct.
Character is certainly one of those C's. It may be the first and maybe the most important one. Do you want to just elaborate a little bit on each of the 5 different C's that come into this concept of the 5 C's of credit?
Yes, and of course, to provide more context as well for our audience, when we said, so why do I need a bank? And I mentioned that usually people think, okay, maybe I can use for my core financial management, I can use personal, whatever. The first thing that comes to their mind when it comes to a bank is to lend, 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 lend. So talking about that lending piece, which is a very important piece, I wouldn't deny that when it comes to your financial institution. There's something we call the 5 C's of credit. And essentially, the 5 C's of credit is what the bank uses to assess your readiness. I do not want to say worthiness, but your readiness for credit. Because as much as people try to say, oh, bank, they're only after your interest, they after their own interest, it's about interest and interest to the bank, they're after, in it for themselves, they're also on the lookout. They also want to make sure that you are able to pay whatever debt that you take on, which is why, one thing that might be close to home or closer to home would be mortgages. When you want to get a mortgage, they assess, okay, how much? There's something they call pre-qualification, right? How much can this person take considering their finances, right? So now speaking to the 5 C's of credit, first thing is the bank wants you to be, the bank wants to ensure that you're also able to pay whatever debt you take on, which is why they have this 5 C's of credit. And the first thing is the character piece. Now, for character, you're checking your reputation and credit history as an owner. You're checking your management skills. So this person says they own a business. They want to take loan on for this business. How long have they been managing a business? Do they have that management skill? How long have they been in this industry that they are setting up the business in? For example, you could have worked in oil and gas the whole of your life, and then you're saying, "Oh, I actually want to set up a farm," and then the bank is like, "Okay, so what do you know about farming? What do you know about agriculture, right?" So all of these things, they're looking at your like I said, personal credit history. How good are you? They're looking at your CRA arrears. So do you pay your taxes? Do you file your taxes on time and things like that? Now that's the first piece of it. Now the second would be what we call capacity. Now, there was a time that maybe years and years ago, I'm sure I wasn't born then, where, where maybe, as long as you had something collateral, you had a piece of land, you're good. The bank would give you money. But now it's more about cash flow, which is capacity. I would say, when they say cash is king, it literally is king when it comes to lending. Now, the cash flow part of it is the bank wants to make sure that even though we're lending to you as a business, they want to make sure that your business is making money and your business has enough sufficient cash flow to service that debt that you're taking on. And there are different ways the bank uses to evaluate it. They call debt service ratio, they call it EBITDA, so many things that they put into calculation, right? Of course, a part of the owner's income is also taken into consideration. Now you might think, okay, I'm a new business owner. So how do I don't my financials? So what does that mean? Now, of course, there are also other programs that are available, like government-backed loans. There are grants that you can get, right? To make sure that you get into this lending piece or you get enough money for the business in terms of lending. Now, I put it here that for capacity, again, like I said, it's about the cash flow. Now, your financial statements and tax filings tell your story. Make sure they are accurate and up to date. Sometimes business owners inflate their business expenses to save taxes. Be careful with that, as it often comes in the way when it comes to lending, right? Of course, because once your expenses go up, it shows that, oh, this business is really not making money. Now, the third one is what we call capital. Now, capital is your own financial commitment as the owner. Because they call it sometimes what is the skin in the game?
Skin in the game.
Skin in the game. Now, I said that when this financial institutions, they want to make sure you're able to repay the debt as well, and so they're also looking out for what we call shared risk. Okay, so are we the only ones taking on this risk, or are we both sharing the risk? Because there's every possibility that if you had your skin in the game as well. You had your own portion of the money in the business. There's every chance you won't walk away from the business. Now, as Christians, of course, the expectation is that, again, we're building to last. We're building something that would create impact. And we're not just setting something up, just, okay, let me get loan and then I walk away from it. So, of course, the bank wants to see that. They want to see that, there's some sort of owner equity in this business. They want to see that you're reinvesting back into your business. They want to see, like that parable in the Bible where they gave one 5 talents and then 3 and then 2, and then the owner comes back and says, "Oh, on the 5 I made another 5." And so it's showing us though, yes, there's some sort of, you're making profit upon profit and then you're reinvesting that back into whatever it is, into the business, right? And so they want to see that, and all of that is shown on your business financials. You can talk about retained earnings and all of that. So that's the capital piece. Now, collateral. Simple, straightforward security. What are you giving up? What are you putting the stake on as to, okay, this is what I'm putting down as the collateral for this lending. Of course, the last piece is the conditions. What industry are you in? Why are you getting this loan? In the economy, considering the economy right now, as the economy is shifting with different things, interest rates, inflation, Trump tariff, what are the industries that are affected? What are the industries that are affected? Okay, does it make sense? Right? Does it make sense to lend to this industry at this time? So all of those 5 Cs of credit is what the bank is looking at. And of course, this 5 Cs of credit will considering all of this if we're doing a secured lending. Of course, your bank has other things like unsecured credit that do as well, and talk about the credit cards and all that. But when we're talking about accessing funds that for expansion, for growth and all that, then this would matter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a concept that I came across, and you're probably familiar with it as well, is that the length of time that a loan may be extended is often assessed in terms of the life expectancy of the assets that loan is intended to purchase. So a mortgage on a building would be over a longer period of time, whereas on a piece of machinery, it would probably be much less.
Sure. Yes. Sometimes you get 5-year term on an equipment. Sometimes it's 2 years. It just depends on what the life of that equipment is.
Yeah.
And so based on that, that's what they assess. Sometimes it might even be a real property. Usually, sometimes what the bank does is, okay, it's 30 years. Just they deduct 5 years, just to stay on the safe side, and then they give you 25-year amortization period. Yeah.
Bolu, you've given us a lot of things to think about here right now, and I trust that we'll take the opportunity to have those conversations with our financial institution when it comes the appropriate time. I'm just wondering, is there any stories of interactions you've had, maintaining confidentialities, of course, but is there any stories that you have that really illustrate perhaps that approach that we as followers of Christ should take?
Well, I wouldn't really say I have a story in particular, but what I would say is when it comes to you being in a situation where you need something from the bank eventually, because at every point in time we eventually get to that point. It's I would say that there's every chance and there's every possibility that your business banker would likely go above and beyond for you if they know you. So it's not, so I would say that it's essential, and I think this pretty much wraps and summarizes everything. It's essential for you to have a good relationship with your business banker. Know them. Not just, I don't need to know my business banker. I don't need to go into the bank. I just withdraw cash and that's it. Because there's so many things, there's so many opportunities when it comes to partnerships with other institutions that your bank might have that you do not know and that could actually bring some value to your business banking. Now, I say that because at times, so my bank, for example, that I work with, of course, I'm not saying what bank, there's so many other organizations that they partner up with, maybe when it comes to, okay, trying to source out for grant for businesses, for example, and trying to maybe when it comes to merchant services and other things that would make your business banking easy for you. Now, like I mentioned, the instance of grant. Now, there are clients that I have. Now, when this came up, there are some clients that are already top of mind for me. Now, okay, this opportunity is here now. I need to contact this client just so they know that this opportunity is out here now. They could leverage this and it could add some value to their business banking. But of course, all of this, I'm only able to do all of this because I know them, because there's some sort of relationship. I understand where they're going to, I understand what their goals are, what their 5-year plan is, and all of that, right? So I would say to summarize it, have a good relationship. Once you figure out, okay, this is what you want to do, make sure you have a relationship. If it's biannual touch basis, you set up with your relationship manager, your business banker, or once a year, quarterly, however it would work, because it would help a lot when it comes to what you're building as a business.
Absolutely. Well, that's good advice. In my experience, I've noted that bankers are usually fairly good at reading business plans and reading financial statements. But what they're not so good at? They're not so good at reading people's minds.
Well, that's true.
So keep your banker informed. Let them know the positive things that are happening in your business, in your organization, and let them know what things you may be up against in the future, because I believe they can, in fact, help you along the way. Bolu, thank you so much for sharing your insights and wisdom with our audience today. God bless you in the things that you do.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for being with us. We trust you found this to be helpful. And if so, please give us a like, a follow, and a share. The Bible says in Matthew, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven." If you're launching or growing a business, a ministry area, or a special project, or if you're involved in helping them as a resource or service provider, we'd love to have you participate with us. Stay informed of upcoming events and items of interest by subscribing to the Marketplace Ministries Update, sent out periodically. May God bless you as you do your best to faithfully represent Jesus Christ in the marketplaces of life.